do we get in that day?
Again, going through some changes, and wait no longer. It's time for Battleground number 2. We're going to be heading to Tomb of the Spider Queen, and that will be Team Freedom's pick. I think it's always good to put into play that ENDEMIC, they studied, they understood what Team Freedom wanted to do. They took Team Freedom to Infernal Shrines in game number 1, and therefore they came in with a strategy. Now we're back to saying, all right, we know how you prepared, we've got everything in line. Now it's time for maybe the series to take a different turn, and Team Freedom opting for the map pick over that first pick, so they're going to take us to Tomb of the Spider Queen, a map with very different mechanics in terms of the macro, but definitely a heavy emphasis more on the team fighting and the wave clear.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty cool to see. We aren't going to see a gray main split push approach from Team Freedom. What I'm going to be looking at is whether or not Team Freedom is willing to commit to something a little bit more 3-2-esque rather than traditional 1-4 on a battleground like this. I think that would, again, kind of cater to showing their respect towards international meta and rotations, if you will. That's one thing I would like to see. But I will say, I feel like whatever roster Mike Udall has ever played on, he's like one of the few players in North America that always seems to be on a Tomb of the Spider Queen roster. Yeah. It always seems like he can hold his own there. So I find it, you know, pretty bold, even though maybe math score not there to back it up, that to pick this battleground against a player like Mike Udall. See how it works here for Team Freedom. So we got Maev and Medivh taken away.
And that was back. The highlight that we heard from Zugrug, this was when he caught Biggie in rotation on Tomb of the Spider Queen. Had a nice lap of it in the video leading up to this. Different circumstances now. Johanna should still likely have consideration, but she doesn't have the same priority that they had during week 3 of phase 2 here, where that did happen. We also saw a very high Hanzo pick that they had on the side of ENDEMIC, so there were some things in the draft back then that will look very different than we did now, but the Jaina pick that we had last game by Yoda could very much be a thing on both sides here for ENDEMIC or Team Freedom.
Hammer and Phoenix were the back-end bans. No focus towards front lines or supports whatsoever here, leaving a lot available. Wonder if Deckard is going to be the higher priority. That's something we normally would expect, especially in a battleground like Tomb where the 1-4 is so dominant. He controls so much in rotation there, but it's not a snap pickup, which to me automatically shows ENDEMIC's comfortable with that white main, and then they go with it there. So maybe just a bit more consideration to their 2-3 rather than their first pick.
Said Biggie, you ready to carry us? I mean, look, you're our new support player. Here's Deckard. Good luck. Let's go. I mean, because right now, Deckard players, Dreadnought, are required to be playmakers for their teams. And we've seen it across a lot of the HGC teams. But this is Biggie, his first go at the support.
We get a Diablo Raynor as a response here from Freedom. Diablo is a hero that can dictate a lot of the 1-4 rotations pretty aggressively. Raynor, just a very consistent DPS, obviously, objectively speaking, probably one of the best ones that we have. So overall, it is a little curious to pick a Diablo into a Deckard within a 1-4. It shows that you have to be able to match him, and he might be limited after the Shadow Charge. So as long as the backliners aren't too vulnerable to a Deather and have the wave clear necessary, I feel like ENDEMIC's got to be confident with the first half of their draft.
Sticking to that Junkrat, and that was a hero that we saw a lot of plays made by Michael Udall towards the end of phase 1. And it's something that feels comfortable for him, and then also looks like him now that I take a second gander. Is that a doppelganger?
That's the term. I don't know if that's the accurate application, but yeah.
It is now.
Okay. Yeah. Like I'm Anduin, and now he's...
Yeah, I look down, I could just see, like, oh, it seems natural, because it still takes me back to, like, the insane play that he made on Junkrat back in Towers of Doom, back in the later part of phase 1, where somehow he stayed alive in situations where it didn't make sense, and he just made insane plays.
Yeah.
It's almost synonymous with the Junkrat. Falstad's like, he's tucked away for a rainy day. Junkrat's the new hotness for him.
I mean, I will say there are very few players when I think of the hero Junkrat that I go, this is a good or a great Junkrat, right? You know, when I think of characters like Zeratul, you think of Glorong, things like that, right? And I guess when it comes to Junkrat, Snitch is one of those few players, but Mike Udall is actually on that list, I think, when it comes to the Junkrat. So I'm not surprised. I'm still not so sold on the lookalike factor, but I get where you're
going to have to trust me on this one. I'm going to have him do a cosplay for us.
Yeah?
Yeah, basically he just walks in front of the camera. Easy mode. Malthael picked up. Malfurion going to be here. Now for ENDEMIC, do we go down the likes of something like a Johanna? Do we get the Muradin? Or potential Garrosh, which could be interesting. We don't see a ton of that style play. There's so much control between a Junkrat, Yrel displacement, that it wouldn't be a bad option to follow up on that. I think they need wave clear though in the, yeah.
Is it the Blaze? Oh wait, I forgot we have a Yrel on the offlane. That's my bad. Hanzo. Sorry, got hella distracted there. The Hanzo Junkrat.
Well, they had Hanzo. Hanzo was a first pick rotation for them in their previous series.
Yeah.
Which didn't really.
That was when Hanzo was a little bit more relevant too.
Before the Rainer rework too, I believe.
Yeah.
So we weren't quite ready for the Rainer. Or maybe it was right around the same time, but it was definitely before, I think.
But what this does kind of present for the composition of ENDEMIC is something that hasn't been a major problem within the meta for a long while, but is something that I know coming kind of more and more prominent, not only in NA drafts, but just overall. Now that we have auto attackers and more consistent DPS, this was a long-standing problem before in drafting, is like if you get the double sustain and you have nobody to finish a kill, right? But if you have the double resets, then you have only one way to be able to approach a team fight. And when I watch, you know, unless this is an auto attack Hanzo adjustment or some way to get more reliable DPS out from the Hanzo, there's very reliable, consistent damage output to the kill target. And it's not like Johanna has enough single target lockdown. It's just they're all really good at spreading out damage and being a problem to everybody.
Who's the execution?
Well, who's going to kill anything?
Well, we did see an adaptation in a build yesterday, I believe, where it was the auto attack, the redemption at 1,
yeah,
the explosive arrow at 4, and then at 16, instead of the pierce, we went into the empowering your basic storm bow, like back and forth there. So there has been some change-ups in build in that regard. I don't know if it will come out here. Obviously, explosive arrow started to take over as the #1 on Tomb of the Spider Queen just because of the wave clear. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see that. Junkrat obviously can intermingle between lanes, and we'll see how that goes as it's time for game number 2 here on Tomb of the Spider Queen.
Yeah, a lot of that is going to be something to keep an eye on here and watch it unfold. Still no level 1 picked up there for a Hanzo. This is one of the battlegrounds and heroes, at least. Man, it's interesting. Now that the auto attack range is adjusted on Hanzo since the last time that was a kind of overly meta build, Diablo's Shadow Charge threat range is pretty much equal to the auto attack range of Hanzo at that point in time, so she should be able to threaten him, making it a little less reliable here.
Huh. No auto attack range. Instead, it's going to be the scatter arrow build at level 1.
Getting a couple stacks here early against Zugrug. It's a clash over the wave. Should set a bit of the tone for the laning control, which is very important on Tomb of the Spider Queen. Scroll ceiling already dropped out along with the Iron Skin and Condemn. Let's watch how fast ENDEMIC can rotate out. Utano already making his transition. Team Freedom is going to be stuck around for a little bit longer. And the clear on top is going to be pretty proactive here from ENDEMIC. So ENDEMIC already setting the cadence to the laning situation exactly like they would like to here with this comp.
I mean, Dansky is just like, what's up, Zugrug? I'm over on your side of the battleground. I'm a Hanzo. What are you going to do about it? I mean, it's definitely an aggressive stance here early by ENDEMIC, and the wave clear definitely showing.
Willing to take the offensive rotation as well from the sidewall up from mid to top while the Diablo was staring at him in Shadow Charge range. So confidence being displayed there by Dansky. 7 gems even managed to turn in. That is not a major landmark to keep track of, but one thing to think of when you watch Tomb of the Spider Queen, every time you watch a team be able to get a lot of baby turn-ins, that means there's like 7 seconds that they have been able to do something on the battleground where the opponents failed to apply pressure. It doesn't directly translate to anything, but it does show probably that this is going to be a major problem as the game escalates. So if you can watch multiple opportunities like that, and if ENDEMIC can just kind of trickle those in, not only is it safer for you overall, but it really does help when it comes to the approach to the battleground here. This Cure kind of getting bullied here.
Yeah, he took flight, and Lutano said, no, you can stay there. Was just hitting with that penetrating round right as he took flight in to help with that wave clear.
Look at this. So Team Freedom gave up on the 1-4 because they were losing it so heavily that they were willing to invert the laning situation. Look how fast ENDEMIC actually responded to it. It was almost the second that Diablo was like, hey, we have interest towards bottom lane. You see the tri-lane respond out from ENDEMIC. This is second game in a row here from ENDEMIC where they have very well thought out kind of approaches. Why they're up a game over what as it currently stands according to results, like debatably North America's best team after the results against Tempo.
It all started at the Western Clash too, is that a lot of people gave a lot of respect towards Team Freedom after that Western Clash. They were the highest performing North American team, But the way that they've been playing since week 4, week 5, things have really taken a different tone. They step into Western Clash. It just feels like a different, better team. They clearly somehow still have these game 1 struggles in all of their series. The fact that they have lost 8 times in game number 1, Dreadnought, still just blows my mind.
What blows my mind is how well ENDEMIC is responding, though, to the laning situation. I agree with you. It is surprising how consistent of a trend that can be from a team as, you know, formidable as a roster like Freedom. You know me, I'm a laning nerd. Geek probably is a better term for that one. Knights are going to be picked up for ENDEMIC, buying a little bit of room for them to make a play, especially because notice how Freedom has not been able to back out and pick up their Knights due to the lack of wave clear that they have in the comp. It's just flat out they are playing ring around the rosy here with ENDEMIC. When does ENDEMIC want to confidently finish the turn in, though, is the biggest question here. Ideally, I would assume it's going to be around the 8 time frame, like once they've round 8. And that's purely because they have been able to choose a lot of the turn-in opportunities here, as they now reside at 42 gems to 13 of Team Freedom.
It's always an interesting point when you see a Li Ming style. Li Ming and Phoenix, I think, have good wave clear paired together. Raynor, obviously, give them some pepper since the rework has added to the wave clear. But you never really look at Diablo, Raynor, and Li Ming as saying, boy, we've got some really good anti-siege for this objective coming at us. So I am curious on how aggressive ENDEMIC will be to maybe eat some of those shots, especially now that you have that Johanna on the front line. Maybe use that Yrel to eat some of that armor, although she might be in the solo dealing with the Malthael. So the approach of ENDEMIC moving forward will be curious.
This is going to be a pretty big play there, especially we got the Sapphire use collusion. We see pressure there from Kira as he throws the hammer against the wall. Second leap through, the damage is there. First blood here for ENDEMIC, or excuse me, for Team Freedom is the 1-to-1 between this. Kira able to dodge out there and leap out from the damage. Team Freedom trying to skirmish and kind of coil around here, but ENDEMIC is not giving up anything for free.
But one thing that'll be fun to watch, we've got Touch of Death picked up by Malthael at level 7. You could see the healing reduction on there. So it'll be really curious the use of that, especially when you look, obviously Deckard passing around potions, but then of course Yrel, all the self-healing that she has. So the timing on that is going to be really interesting to keep an eye on during these team fights on how well, you know, Malthael can accomplish just pressing that button, making sure obviously he's got to dot him up first, but oh, Lutano, careful there, buddy.
And on the other side, you know, you have the equal kind of matchup with the level 7 talent there for Deckard, having the chance to use the empowered Haragic Cube, get the massive 75% healing reduction.
When you see that on the other side, does it make you consider Twilight Dream that much more? Or are you confident, like, okay, we still got to get something out of this tranquility?
I'll be honest, it's severe enough in a composition where I have this many self-healers that I go, like, I don't know if I want to rely on that self-sustain. Another thing to consider is, like, does the opponent have heroes that are actually vulnerable to Twilight Dream? That's another variable to consider. Well, I mean, Deckard, Kane, Junkrat, and Hanzo are all very susceptible, but the other two very easily.
You get on them now.
Yeah.
No ice block makes it really scary to walk in.
Yeah, and it's very difficult to be able to kind of get into that positioning. So I would say, you know, it definitely makes you consider it, and there are enough targets to where I don't dislike the opportunity, but there is always the crux of Twilight Dream now where you go, yeah, but no ice block. I think that's forever going to be the kind of story around it.
Well, Team Freedom managed to get the first turn in here. Just outside of the interrupt, Yoda was able to get that turned in. Both teams are relatively close to 10, so I don't expect the major fireworks here. But if we see 10 locked in the middle as things start to fall, somebody might rip a heroic and really see if they can just snowball this first turn and maybe take away some of the gems in the pockets on the other team. So it'll be interesting to watch the approach here as they get ready. Team Freedom pushing in with their web weavers. One
synergy that is an anti-siege option for ENDEMIC that's one of my favorite duos in all of Heroes is the Dragon's Arrow into pre-Riptire defense. It's very hard to be able to deal with. Hyperion is going to be dropped with Freedom, having the 10 spike in the siege through mid. Now, here we go. ENDEMIC does pick up their 10s. Dansky yet to make anything happen, at least yet. There is Cure. Rans out Zugrug. Nasmus joins in. Riptire already there. Dragon's Arrow is going to go through the uprights. And there goes the Riptire.
Yeah, I mean, it was from a very safe distance. It worked, but the Dragon Arrow, once that missed, it just kind of, things fall apart at that point. Obviously, the further away you are, the bigger the stun, but when you don't hit, well, the stun is the same as it was before it started. 0, Michael Udall, concussion mine. That's a fun interaction. Zugrug, he's going to get the flip over. The Lornado not able to get the lockdown in time because Collusion hit that root there. Managed to get enough lockdown. Boy, we see ragdoll physics, but concussion mine and shadow charge physics, that's a fun one.
It's pretty much any teleport distance gainer with shadow charge itself always functions a little silly there. It's always very terrifying. Li Ming's teleport, if anybody's ever played a Li Ming against Diablo, you probably know what we're talking about. It hurts, it feels bad. You blink
away and you're like, how did I get back
And you're
here?
like, that was the super suplex. This guy has devil arms that can reach from, I mean, it seems like out of nowhere.
Even though at times he walks around like a T-Rex.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the words that I kind of think about to describe Diablo are only apt. You know, they're evil and kind of just devilish, really.
The way he walks around reminds me of Chris Farley.
Yeah, but nobody else sees you making this weird T-Rex formation with your hands right now.
I imagine they're watching me.
Siege up here for Team Freedom here with these web weavers throughout mid. Still continuing. They will be able to pick up mid for pretty much an easy clear here. Question is now with bottom, where do they make the transition down? Cure is on an island. This is Ardent Defender almost all day. Can he make it out here?
I'm going to go with maybe. It's going to require a lot. The Dragon Arrow was used. Here comes Zugrug from the backside. Ardent Defender has been used to flip over. Didn't eat a lot of damage. Disintegrate's going to go in, but the Lornado's going to buy time. Nasmus just barely able to soul rip out there, and that was enough to get him past the Lornado.
That was clutch from Nasmus.
In his level 1.
Yeah, that was ridiculous.
I don't know if that happens without it.
The increased range opportunities to make sure that he can get the teleport out and make sure he's just fine there from that absolutely terrifying tornado of just beautiful information of fictional characters.
They're real in my heart.
The biggest thing now for Endemic, looking at where we're at here on Tomb, J-How, has got to be 13 window from them and the Web Weaver opportunity before Freedom does pick up the next Web Weaver for themselves. It's reliable. They can kind of bank on that opportunity to exist. But if they struggle and lose anybody or maybe die into the process and losing some of those gens while the experience advantage is still in favor of Freedom, it could be huge. And here we see Cure out again. Gonna get caught out by Team Freedom, constantly picking on him.
That does give a turn-in opportunity up at the top. They might actually get a kill. There's gonna be the Dragon Arrow Warren there during the unstoppable. Bless Shield's gonna follow up. See if those gems do get picked up, but committing to one area opens it up. I mean, Yrel was only holding onto one gem, so just losing Yrel, the experience is there and the control is there, but the rest of the gems were elsewhere.
Yeah, that very much was probably more of a bait based on exactly that, with how many gems that we actually saw on Cure for the second time, kind of pondering over the bottom lane. Very much could have been the case. Just buy enough time, make sure you get the Web Weaver phase. And losing one gem for this experience situation, it avoids that window that I was so concerned with. They now have a chance to be able to siege with this. They still need to make them count, but right now, Freedom seems to be the men doing that. With that flip over onto Dansky, that's 24 gems on the ground here of Tomb.
Zugrug is super stacked Diablo at this point, so even trying to turn this on him, Bless Shield was used on that Mouth L pick, so trying to keep him locked down in any manner is very difficult. There's going to be the healing reduction going in on that Emerald, just in case the fight broke out. Probably had that prepped.
The rotation now to top for Endemic. Bottom Web Weaver is still very, very healthy and enough rotation. Oh, Blessed Shield coming out with the Hyperion too. The leap in, they're wasting no time. There's the lockdown comes through. Utano ends up going down. Endemic here. Keep up the siege. A response out from Collusion and Friends is going to be here as the Dragon's Arrow doesn't connect after the Condemn, but that was so close.
The Condemn might have pulled him just out. It was a pixel off. No Bless Shield here to try and start a fight, but Cure still managing to hold on the front line. Condemn continuing to pull several members in. Collusion, however, there's going to be the slow. He's trying to walk away. Cure comes in, and the Scatter Arrow off the wall is going to be there. Cure hits a home run as he gets Diablo in the backside. The Ardent Defender is going to be there right as the last rights come off. And Endemic all of a sudden turning this around.
Cure is just dominating there over that last skirmish. He did such a good job of punishing the Diablo positioning in a lot of situations, forcing the mispositioning after the huge Lornado from big impact there on the support role of Endemic. Using the synergy, already up a game here, J-How, and right now it looks like they're setting the tone to possibly turn this around and take a game number 2. Boss will be completed. Web Weaver phase not achievable, at least not yet there for Team Freedom, as Malfurion has just spawned onto the battleground. Nasmus clearing up these Knights. Maybe Team Freedom can force with a 16 advantage while these Knights are sieging through mid. But surely with that boss up on top in the Web Weaver phase, they're going to have some cleaning up to do.
They pick up the Night Camp, does Team Freedom, to try and deal with the inevitable Web Weaver push. They were scouting that out, saw that they were coming in, knew that it was coming. Obviously, this boss should be dealt with before the Web Weaver lands, but it does allow the Web Weaver to spawn that much further forward, thus putting the threat towards not just the keep wall at this point, but the keep. We'll see how much Team Freedom can hold here. It could be keep time and clobbering time, as here comes the Riptire. Patient approach.
Dragon's Arrow is what we're looking for. If Yoda steps out too far, maybe collusion.
He's backing up.
Not going to go. Oh, there it is. Actually, wrong target, though. At least not most optimal target. Diablo.
No souls.
Still drops. Not going to matter there. Great job here by ENDEMIC, pulling the trigger and sowing the teamwork to be able to get that kill. And now it is going to have a lot left behind it there as we see Cure going in, hitting the hammer. Damage onto Lutana, falling low. Squirrel Ceiling coming out from Big Impact with the Condemn, a B-Kid, and 2 more drop. This is surely going to be the core focus now for ENDEMIC, as they have 3 members of Freedom off the board.
They have to be careful. Yoda, of course, on that Leeming. If he gets 1 reset, it could be enough to defend here, but the shields have fallen. ENDEMIC looking to go up 2-0 last rights. That will confirm the first kill. Yoda seeing if he can confirm more. 80% and falling as we see the stuns out in return. 70%. We need Yoda to just get 1 more reset. He might be close to it. There comes the Ardent Defender. Dansky, however, solo. 20% and falling, and they should be able to hold here. They're here. 6-5%. And that is enough. ENDEMIC manages to clutch it out.
I don't have words, Jay-How, for how tense that ending was. That was the closest core race I've seen in a hot while. And it's not because it was health-wise, but I
the
cannot
health bars of the heroes.
I cannot paint the image of Yoda gets the optimal reset in a right time there. That is just, it looks silly. That core dies at about 60%. But they did such a good job of kiting back and forth, mainly Cure with the spreading armor, the AoE healing, buying as much time. That was very well done here from ENDEMIC.
It's one of those things I'm watching in the moment. I want to watch again because Cure was hugging the hip of Dansky, I believe, as they rotated around, giving that armor, but he was hugging that hip, and Yoda was firing shots there. As long as the tank, him eating those shots, even Ardent Defender came back in the middle of that, so he's trying to wear every one of those shots that's coming in, denying that reset, because Dansky the most vulnerable in that situation, and that right there was the priority target. Yoda firing everything that direction. So that rotation of Cure Dansky around that was impressive.
It was very impressive, and even more difficult when you consider the fact that thought process-wise, if you're Cure in that position, right? You're like, okay, I need to keep this alive. I have to deny the resets, but I'm the one taking the core. If I leap on top of you, I give you 35 armor, but you also take the splash damage now. Is that setting you too low for a reset? Like, it's one of those like, well, I've just got to make the call and go for it. But he very much clutched out. And it wasn't just Cure, but there was a lot of plays made there at the very end. And, I mean, I feel like it was 1 auto attack away, or at least 1 spell away, and Yoda just goes, oh, baby, this is just critical mass.
I mean, that's all I was watching. I mean, just the magic missiles, whatever would land, if that got the kill, maybe we're talking about a different game here.
And beyond the end of that, Jay-How, we're now sitting in another situation after all the results we've gotten where it looks like Team Freedom might be the best in North America after a role swap. ENDEMIC up 2-0. What is happening?
I don't know, but ENDEMIC's got to be feeling good about it. We're going to see how good they're feeling about it when we come back, because we're going to go to a quick break, see if ENDEMIC might be able to close this out or whether Team Freedom has more of that reverse sweep magic.